Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Outdoors, Oars, and Oaths by Tonya Kappes, narrated by Johanna Parker. Chapter 1.
Maybelline! Maybelline! You in there?
Y'all, I heard this whisper, but it was 3 in the morning, and I wasn't sure if I was dreaming it. I definitely could have been dreaming it.
Maybelline!
This time I knew I hadn't dreamed it, because the whisper was louder, and there was a little knock on the camper bedroom window. Plus, Fifi, my toy poodle, had jumped up to her feet and was yipping at the noise.
Get up if you're in there!
Yep, that's when I knew it was Dottie Swaggart, the manager of Happy Trails Campground. I reached over and pulled back the curtain from the small window above my head to peek out and let her know to come around to the door. Like most campgrounds, there was very little light due to the nature of why people came to campgrounds. To have the experience of camping and getting away from city life were the reasons in most cases. This particular night, there was a full moon, and it shined down on Dottie like a beacon. Her hot pink sponge curlers glistened like a tiara around and all over her hair. Her nose curled and her top lip turned up when she squinted to make out my gesture.
What?
Her country accent made me smile as I threw back the bedsheet and slipped my feet into my slippers before I walked down the short hallway in my camper van. I unlocked the door, though Dottie was already grabbing the handle to get inside. If y'all knew anything about a camper door, they don't have the most sturdy handles and probably could be plucked open with a good tug, even when they were locked.
Maybelline, it ain't you in there.
She shook one of them old metal fingernail files at me. What? I wasn't able to follow along. What is wrong? It's 3 in the morning.
There's someone in the storage unit,
she heaved, out of breath.
And it ain't no critter.
She answered my next thought before I could formulate it and get it out.
I heard the doors going up. I'm telling you, someone is breaking in again. Where's Hank? Maybelline?
I'm thinking. My mind was jumbled. I had been shuffling my boyfriend and current sheriff around campers since he'd had to haul his out of the campground to get some work done on it. Happy Trails Campground wasn't just for people who owned campers for vacation. I also had permanent campers where people lived. He's in the Can-Ham with the orange stripes. I grabbed the old boots I kept by the door and hopped down the campervan step on one foot while managing to slip the other foot in the boot. Go get Hank! I looked back at Dottie and grabbed the oar lying up against the picnic table located underneath the pulled-out awning. With my hands tight around the oar, I darted off into the darkness. It would have been awesome to say that I let the light of the moon and stars guide me to the front of the campground where the storage units were located, but that'd be what we called a little white lie. The adrenaline pumping through my veins was what had my feet moving up the gravel road as fast as a June bug. My eyes were laser-focused on the small metal building that had very few storage units, which were mainly taken up by the folks who rented a camper lot year-round.
I'll be darned if I let you rummage through my things again.
If anyone knew me, I was not real good at containing my anger when it came to being, well, screwed over. I generally didn't like to use such language, but I could feel it. I could feel the anger. I could feel the devil bubbling up in me and about to explode, and a giant-sized hissy fit was about to be unleashed on whoever it was in my storage unit again. As I got closer, the light of the moon started to dim. Rain was coming, and it was in the forecast. The clouds were moving in and fast, which meant I had to really hightail it up to the storage unit. My speed picked up, and so did the sound of someone moving around in one of the units. My unit.
I've been waiting to get my hands on you,
I yelled and jumped around the side of my unit and swung as hard as I could, making contact with someone.
Oomph!
The shadowy figure groaned.
And here's one to grow on!
I whacked them again for good measure until Hank got there. The person lay in a lump among some of my old clothes, which were really the only things in the unit. Things I honestly had no need for, but they were mine. Whoever this was trying to get my things had no right to them unless they asked. Last time I checked, no one asked me if they could break the lock of my storage unit, again, and rummage through my things.
May, get back.
Hank's footsteps were heavy as he approached. His arms were locked straight out, and he gripped his gun in his hands, aimed and ready to fire.
Get back!
I took a step back with my oar up in the air. I got whoever that is good with my oar. I shook it in the air victoriously.
This is the sheriff. I have a gun pointed at you. Don't move.
Hank dropped one hand from the gun as he continued to point it toward the subject. He pointed to me.
Flip on the light.
His finger gestured over to the dangling ball chain in the middle of the storage unit.
Don't move or I'll shoot you.
Hank was giving the lump on the floor the orders, but the person didn't move.
I think you knocked him out cold.
Dottie Swaggart had joined us.
Dottie, I told you to stay put.
Hank was so good at giving orders.
I didn't listen.
She was ornery at best and didn't listen to no one, not even me, her boss. With one eye on the dark lump, my feet crossed one over the other sideways until I reached the light and flipped it on.
Where's my diamond?
The person rolled over on his back, his arms wrapped around himself. He winced in pain.
I need my diamond.
Stanley? You could have knocked all my teeth out, and I wouldn't have been as shocked as I was this very moment. Chapter 2.
Stanley?
Hank slipped a gaze at me with his gun still pointed at Stanley.
You're Stanley?
Dottie shuffled in, the pink pom-poms on her plastic-heeled slippers wiggling over to Stanley. She stood over him and tugged her cigarette case out of the top of her pajama top.
You sure do look different than I imagined.
Her head moved back and forth, as if she were trying to get a better look at him.
Ladies, this is a crime scene. Can you please step back?
Hank's head snapped in my direction, like he wanted me to scold Dottie. That wasn't going to happen. No one scolded Dottie. It's not a crime scene. I had all these items in the storage unit thanks to Stanley. This is Stanley Shelton, attorney at law.
He's Maybelline's attorney.
Dottie unsnapped the case and tapped out a cigarette.
But what's he doing here?
The cigarette smoke billowed from her mouth.
Put down that gun.
Hank did what he was told. Good question. I took a step closer now that Hank had put the gun away. Stanley, what diamond are you talking about?
My diamond from the bin.
He rolled from side to side as if he were rubbing out the pain.
You hurt me.
He let go of his side and pointed across the darkness over to the corner.
Can you please get my briefcase?
You scared us half to death. What do you expect me to do at 3 a.m? I walked over to the familiar brown satchel I'd never seen him without and used my foot to give it a hard kick, sending it sliding across the concrete floor.
You were never an early bird. I should have remembered that.
Stanley Shelton was actually the attorney of my now dead husband, who'd had the chore of telling me that I was broke and homeless. Sorta homeless, as he gave me the flamingo keychain to the house on wheels I now called home.
What's this about a diamond?
Dottie's arm curled around her small waist as her other arm's elbow rested on it. She held her cigarette up in the air. Your diamond? You mean the diamond Paul bought me from when we were vacationing in the Swiss Alps? I knew what he was talking about, but no one else in the storage unit knew, not even Hank.
Think again, honey. That diamond was seized by the FBI. I've got the documentation to prove it. I figured you'd ask me, so I came prepared.
This didn't surprise me at all. Stanley was always prepared.
My diamond was not, and I hid it in with Paul's things so they couldn't find it. For safekeeping. I want my diamond, and I'll stop at nothing to get it.
Stanley crawled up to his knees and rested on his heels.
Was that a threat?
Dottie spat.
Hit him again, Maybelline.
Dottie encouraged me, and for a split second, I did think about it.
I'm not just gonna stand here all night.
Hank ran his hands down his tired face and sucked in a breath.
What do you want me to do?
I've got him. I couldn't hold it against Stanley that Paul had put us in this situation. He did right by me by getting me off the hook with the feds in Paul's Ponzi scheme. I guess I can give him a bed for tonight.
Listen, just give me my diamond, and I'm out of here before the sun even comes up.
Stanley made his way to his feet. He was a far cry from the man who had worn a fancy gray pinstriped suit that was made of the finest materials and nice crystal cufflinks. Both had screamed successful lawyer. Tonight he had on a pair of ragged jeans and a dirty white t-shirt that needed a good scrubbing, or better yet, thrown away. "Grab something out of Paul's clothes to wear and follow me up to my camper." I pointed to one of the bins he'd already gone through, scattering the contents all over the place.
"I don't think this is a good idea,"
Hank whispered, sidling up to me. "He's harmless. Look at him." I shot another glance Stanley's way. He was scrounging around the clothes. "Besides, I have my trusty old oar." I still had a good grip on it.
"I'm not going to harm her."
Stanley gave Hank a hard look.
"You let him harm her."
Hank's chin jutted out.
"You didn't do anything to keep her safe when your client was taking the entire world for a joyride using their money, including my family's. I hear May has made up for it since. She's brought the economy back into your town, and from what I gather, this never would have happened if I hadn't sent her here."
Stanley stood there like he had some sort of hand in what happened to me. "Don't!" I lifted the oar and pointed it at him.
"Hit him!"
Dottie wagged her cigarette fingers at him.
"Give him another good whack!"
Ahem. I cleared my throat. "I'm not going to hit anyone. I will not let you take credit or give credit to Paul because of how the economy and normal has been growing since I looked around at Hank and Dottie, collectively helped to get this crappy campground back up and running. Paul West left me with nothing but what you see here. The campground was worthless, and so was the campervan that got me here." I stood a little taller, dropping my shoulders down. "So, if you'd like to go get changed and have a hot cup of coffee before I let Hank arrest you for breaking and entering, I suggest we go now."
"I'll go with you."
Hank was quick to address the fact that he didn't like the idea of Stanley in the camper with me, alone. "Hank," I put my hand on his chest to stop him from following us, since the camper he was currently staying in was located across the lake and in the opposite direction to my camper. "I'm fine. Stanley can't do anything. I've known him for years."
"Are you sure?"
Hank looked down at me. Even the dim storage lights couldn't hide the concern in his mesmerizing green eyes.
"How long have you known him? What is he talking about? A diamond?" "My diamond. It was right in this plastic container."
Stanley pointed to the one where I'd found a loose diamond I'd then given to Bobby Ray to have set into an engagement ring for Abby. There was no way I was going to spill my beans about how the diamond had a home on Abby Fawn's ring finger. Besides, Paul had given me that diamond. I wasn't entirely sure what Stanley thought, but I was going to get to the bottom of it. I've known Stanley a really long time. I adjusted my eyes on him. "Isn't that right, Stanley?" I felt myself revert back into the old Mae West, the one who had to protect herself, the one who couldn't and didn't rely on anyone else.
"Maybelline?"
Dottie cut the train wreck going on in my head.
"I'll head on down to your camper and get some coffee on."
I forced my gaze to move from Stanley to Dottie and gave her a slow nod.
"She'll be fine,"
Dottie assured Hank. "Yes, I'll be fine, Hank." I forced a thin-lined smile across my lips and pushed my eyes to soften so they wouldn't appear as hard as I felt inside.
"If there's a crime here, as the interim sheriff, I need to look into it."
Hank wasn't going away so easy.
"Are you the same person who broke in here a few weeks ago?"
I tightened my forearms so my hand wouldn't shake when I reached out to touch him. I never made a move without putting thought into and deliberately delivering the response I needed to convey. Right now, I had to let Hank know I was not afraid of Stanley. Yes, I was surprised. Afraid? No way. The only thing I was worried about was the fact he was here asking about the diamond, and that's why I needed to be alone with him. I'd not told anyone how I'd given the diamond to Bobby Ray. Nor had Bobby Ray. Trust me, I would have known. No one round here could keep a secret, and I'd have already heard by now if someone other than me and Bobby Ray knew. I'm fine. Dottie is going, and I've known Stanley longer than I've known you. Please, please go back to the camper. So go back and get the rest of your sleep. Call me before you go to work. Hank had recently taken on the task of sheriff after the elected sheriff had walked away and started his own private investigation service, but not without asking Hank to join him. Hank hadn't technically said no to the offer and was a little taken aback when he was sworn in to be the interim sheriff until the fall election. With a slightly open mouth, Hank let his tongue play with his back teeth, his eyes lowered as though he were noodling what to do with the situation at hand. "I'm fine," I assured him again. He let out a long, deep sigh and shifted his eyes to get another look at Stanley.
"I'm not going to hurt May. We have some business to take care of, and I'll be on my way back to New York in no time."
Stanley had the few articles of clothing in his hands.
"If that's the case, why didn't you knock on her door?"
Hank had all sorts of questions that he wanted answered before he was going to let Stanley go back to the camper. Or should I reframe that as, before he let Stanley go back to the camper without him present? "We are old friends," I laughed and walked over to Stanley. "Since when did we need to knock on anyone's door to announce our visits?" I patted Stanley, but not without giving a little pressure to each pat to send him a message. "Not only that, but technically, all this junk in here? I told Stanley I didn't want it, but he sent it anyways. I guess something could have gotten mixed up. After all, I didn't pack any of it."
"That's right. I did pack it up for you and send it."
Stanley was finally catching on to what I was trying to convey to him.
"I look forward to catching up with you, May. I have been very happy to see you've made such a great life for yourself."
"See?" I took a step forward and had Stanley follow suit. "Two old friends catching up." I shrugged and led Stanley out of the storage unit.
"I'm going to stop by before I go to work."
Hank wasn't going to settle for a call or text.
"Maybe sooner,"
he called out into the darkness behind me and Stanley. "He won't. He's just saying that to keep you on your toes." I kept a grip on Stanley in case he decided for some reason to run for it. "I also keep a gun now, so I suggest you get some real good excuses up in that thinning head of hair on your shoulders as to why you would literally break into the storage unit twice."
"I didn't break into the unit before."
I could feel my panic start to rise. Chapter 3. "Who knows I'm here with that diamond, Stanley?" I questioned him as soon as I got him into my camper. "Fifi, down!" Fifi wasn't doing me any favors. I was trying to scare Stanley into thinking I was some hillbilly, bad you-know-what since I'd moved back to Kentucky, but he was too busy smiling and sweet-talking Fifi as she danced around in his lap.
"I'm guessing you're referring to the diamond on Abby's ring finger?"
Dottie stared upward and sniffed to heaven. Stanley was too busy talking to Fifi to have heard Dottie, but I sure did.
"Honey, just because I've got this accent, it don't make me stupid."
She made herself at home, as she usually did, and started to get all the items we needed for the little coffee chat.
"Relax. I see you getting all tense. No one told me the diamond ring was from you. But do you honestly believe we all think Bobby Ray could afford such a big diamond, unless it was low quality? And from what Abby said, Lynn Dunbar said the quality was better than she'd ever seen."
Lynn Dunbar was the local jeweler everyone in town went to. I'd yet to meet her, or had any reason to. Paul used to lavish me with jewelry, but all of it was seized when the FBI raided the Manhattan apartment and the Hamptons home. There was no need for me to have jewelry here, nor did I want it. That's why I never went to Lynn Dunbar's pole barn, deep in the forest, to even see what she did. From what I understood, Lynn was more of a corporate jeweler who made special pieces for big companies for their employees' anniversaries or retirements. One-of-a-kind pieces. They were special orders, but she also kept a few pieces on hand for locals to check out. Lynn Dunbar needs to keep her mouth shut, I snapped under my breath. "So you're telling me that you didn't come here a few weeks ago and break in?" I made it very clear what I was asking Stanley.
"No, but I need the diamond."
Stanley put Fifi on the ground when he got up off the couch and walked over to the small cafe table, where he took a seat at one of the two chairs.
"If I don't get my diamond, they will kill me."
Kill you? Who? I asked.
People, May. The less you know, the better. Now, if you just give me the diamond, I'll be out of your hair before your boyfriend goes to work.
He got up again, but this time he pointed down the small hall.
Bathroom?
Yeah. I lifted my chin and watched him walk down the hall. I waited for him to close the door and said, "That isn't his diamond. Paul gave it to me, and I can't just take his word for it."
Do you have a diamond certificate?
Dottie asked. No. My brows furrowed. I think it's mine. Dottie and I both looked at the coffee pot when it beeped. She grabbed the handle and walked over to the cafe table to fill the 3 cups.
You better hope it's yours.
She picked up her cup and walked over to the door.
Me and Fifi are going to have a smoke break while you figure this out. I'll be right outside if you need me.
Under the dangling sponge curlers on her forehead, she looked down the hallway at Stanley coming out of the bathroom with Paul's clothes on.
Your coffee is ready,
she told him.
Thank you, Dottie.
He smiled.
Thank you for giving me Paul's clothes. I didn't think I was going to have to wait in the woods so long to get into the storage unit.
Dottie harumphed at his comment and took Fifi's leash off the hook next to the door. It was still too dark outside for Fifi to run freely, like she did during the sunlight hours. There were animals out in the forest at all hours of darkness that would love to have Fifi for a little snack.
Looks like you've got a lot of people who care about your well-being, May.
Stanley took on the lawyer tone I'd known him to have.
I see that you've made quite a life for yourself here.
Cut the crap, Stanley. Why on earth do you think the diamond Paul gave me is your diamond and not mine? I have the certificate to prove it's mine, I lied.
No, you don't. The FBI took your diamond and your certificate. I told you I have the proof. I'm staying at the Milkery, and my paperwork is there.
He had me. He continued.
I know. I handed it all over to them when they told me I could either give them the code to the safe room in your bedroom in your Manhattan apartment, or they'd blow it to bits. Actually, their words were, and I quote...
He sucked in a deep breath. His eyes rolled upward, and his head bobbled back and forth.
If you don't give us the safe code, we will not only blow it to bits, but also take the pitiful campground and camper where Mrs. West will need to live and put her on the streets.
He picked up his coffee and took a sip. His hand was as steady as his gaze. He set the cup back on the table.
I did it for you, May.
His noble act didn't sit well, and it was practically making me gag. I had to take a drink of coffee to make sure the contents of my stomach stayed there.
They didn't want to give you anything, leave you penniless. But thanks to me, I negotiated this little home on wheels, which I love what you've done with the place.
He glanced around. His words brought back the memory of what the camper looked like the first day I took the little step up into it and my new life. I pretty much gutted the inside of the camper van and replaced the flooring with luxurious vinyl, the walls with shiplap. I took out the factory couch and dining set to open it up and replaced them with the small couch and 2-person cafe table. Of course, it wouldn't have been complete without the string of lights. It didn't stop there. I'd completely updated the entire bathroom and bedroom. Well, it is my home, and you're right. I sat down across from him in the other cafe chair. I do have people here who care for me. I found a home, and I plan on staying.
That is exactly what I'd hoped you'd say. Just give me the diamond, and I'll be on my way. No one will ever know I was here, and no one will ever know you had the diamond.
He had that rich lawyer smile on his face that made me want to slap it right off of him. Someone already knows. I picked up my coffee and took a sip. Someone beat you to the storage unit, and I can say, now that you're here, that they knew you put it in the bin before you shipped it here.
How long ago was this?
He asked in a calm voice. Only the drumming of his fingers on the side of the cup told me just how antsy he was about the situation. I don't know, a couple weeks ago. The last few weeks had been a little cloudy. There was recently a murder. I discovered Hank wasn't keen on having kids, like ever. And when he moved his camper out super early one morning, I thought he'd moved out of the campground, completely forgetting he'd been fixing it up and it needed some roof work done. The camper roof was under warranty, so he had to drive the camper to the company a few hours away so they could work on it. That was why he was now living week to week, depending on the camper that wasn't rented to a tourist in Happy Trails. When I heard his truck leave that morning, my imagination had gotten the best of me, and I thought he'd moved out of my life. Literally. Plus, we'd gotten in a little disagreement, and I felt like he wasn't allowing me to be me, the true me I'd worked so hard to find. This was still something we needed to discuss, but I needed a little peace between the murder and finding the right time to talk to him. Now this. Plus, Hank had a lot on his mind as well. His job, for the most part.
It must have been a random break-in, because I've not told a soul about the diamond. I needed to keep it here for safety for a client, and now the client needs their property. If I don't get the diamond to them, they will kill me.
He looked across the table at me. I want to know the name of who is going to kill you. There was some information I was going to need before I made any sort of decision on what I was going to do about the diamond sitting on Abby's finger.
It's the Diamond Swamp Mob. I'm their lawyer. I owe them some money, and I'm using my diamond to give it to them.
Diamond Swamp Mob? I snickered at his lie.
You laugh now, but when I turn up dead after you don't give me the diamond, they will come to you.
You told the Diamond Swamp Mob boss that little old Mae West has your diamond tucked in a plastic container in her storage bin in Happy Trails campground? All of this sounded just too far-fetched to me.
Did any of the other storage units get broken into the last time? Or just yours?
He asked a chilling question.
They have people. They have ways of finding out things. I didn't tell them I had it put there. But it only takes a few connections to track someone's plane ticket. When they find out I flew into Bluegrass Airport and then went back to my life, bingo!
He clapped his hands, and I jumped.
They put two and two together. Mae West from Manhattan would have loved to wear a big diamond like that. But Mae West in Podunk Campground would hide it.
His nose made a long sniffing sound as he took in a deep breath.
They will kill you.
I knew with pulse-pounding certainty Stanley wasn't making this up the exact moment his face paled.
Do you understand what I'm saying, May?
My chin lifted up and down. I took another drink so I wouldn't talk.
Can you please go get it?
He asked. I need time. I wasn't completely sure he was telling the truth. I needed time to figure it out before I bothered Bobby Ray about needing his fiancée's ring back without giving a good reason or some sort of proof. But I wasn't about to take a chance that he was telling the truth. I also need proof.
Proof?
He laughed.
This is rich.
He stopped laughing. The whites of his eyes flashed.
My dead body will be proof if you don't get me the diamond.
He got up from the chair and looked at his watch.
You've got 24 hours to get me the diamond. I'll be here in 24 hours with the FBI documents that state your diamond was seized. Understand?
I'll see you in 24 hours. I blinked and looked away as he left the camper. Dottie, we have 24 hours to prove the diamond on Abby's finger is mine.
Then we better get to it.
She unclipped the leash from Fifi's collar and hung it on the hook before she opened one of the drawers under the small kitchen sink to get the notebook and pen.
I guess we need to be writing it all down.
She dropped onto the table the sleuthing notebook we wrote clues in to help solve various crimes around the area. Solve was used loosely and probably should be interchanged with snoopin', but we love to see ourselves as amateur sleuths. Most times we weren't too far off from solving the mystery. And I had a good feeling we were going to be knee-deep in figuring out just who owned the diamond. Chapter 4. Over coffee, Dottie and I got down to the nitty-gritty of what we needed to know from or about Stanley to figure out if the diamond was really his. He said that the FBI made him open the safe room using the special code to retrieve my diamond. I was talking out loud while Dottie did what Abby would normally do, write down everything in our notebook. She stopped writing. Dottie, what are you doing? I need you to keep up so I can get all of this out of my head. I shifted, placing my hands on my hips. You had...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?